We can sort of move through some of these initial things. This is our amazing team of people, which you are watching literally making it happen this morning. With a few things not working out as planned, as life happens. All of these people put this together. We are looking for, well, I'll get there in just a minute. I'll follow the script. So today's presentation will go about around 15 minutes, and then we'll have about 20 minutes of question and answers. We'd love for you to raise your hands. We'll have someone come around with a microphone, introduce yourself, just your name, and then ask your one question. With a smaller group, if we maintain a smaller group, we might have opportunity for more than one if you have a burning question. Announcements. So we are looking for one more person to join our organizer team, especially someone that has some skills around tech, video, that kind of stuff, so that when Brian's on vacation, like he was recently, we have somebody that can jump in and help with that. If you're interested, just talk to one of us. We'd love to have you join. Reminder to bring your own mug. That emoji is my favorite. And we will be taking the month of August off. So I'm giving you that heads up now. And we'll remind you every week until then. And if you happen to show up in August, cool, impromptu, do something. All right, so this morning we have the pleasure of hearing from Cam Knight. Put on my glasses and read a few things about him. So Cam Knight is a coach, international speaker, and best-selling author of a dozen books in the area of mental performance and personal mastery. Today he will be sharing with us his new business called I Heal the Broken. Cam is a delightful human. He's traveled to over 100 countries and has supported over 500,000 people through his writings. Please welcome Cam.
All right, so she had said my presentation was going to be about 15 minutes. It's going to be a little over, it's about 20, maybe a little bit more. But we'll still have enough time for Q&A. So I want to ask a very obvious question, which is, do you have thoughts running through your mind? Raise your hand if you do. What about mental images? Do you have images flashing to your mind from time to time, or all of the time? And what about feelings? What are some of the emotions that you normally go through? And how aware are you of these thoughts, images, and feelings? And to bring some awareness to them, I would like everyone to close their eyes for a moment and to do this exercise. It's a very powerful exercise that will set the stage for this presentation. So, I would like you to first notice the thoughts running through your mind. And notice how fast they are running. And what's underneath those thoughts? Usually underneath our thoughts, we have images. And so if you're thinking about an event that happened, an image of that memory will flash in your mind. Or if you're thinking about food, an image of that food, such as a burger or pizza, will flash in your mind. And underneath the images are feelings. So what feelings do you notice? Can you put a name to them? What's interesting is our interactivity can be like a storm, a violent and turbulent storm. So imagine your emotions are like the wind blowing in every direction. As the direction of the wind changes, so does your mood. And each time the direction shifts, put yourself in a different mood, cycling from joy, anger, courage, lust, and even empathy. Now imagine your thoughts are like the rain. It starts coming down as a light drizzle, then a strong shower, and a complete downpour. Your thoughts are raining down so hard you can barely see anything in front of you. Lightning is like electric currents shooting through your body. Though instead of coming down from the sky, it starts from the center of your chest and shoots outward. Feel electricity from the center of your chest shooting through all parts of your body. Now imagine two conflicting desires approaching one another. It could be a conflict between staying at your day job or starting a business. But whatever the conflict is, see those conflicting desires coming together like a warm and cold air current colliding to create a tornado of conflicting emotions. Now let's change to something completely different. Picture calmness where all that activity goes away. You're in complete quiet and serenity, where you realize you're just in the eye of the storm. All right, everyone can open their eyes now. So, my name is Ken Knight. I'm an author of a dozen books. And over the last 15 years, I have published 12 books in the area of mental, emotional, and physical performance, having gotten over 10,000 reviews on Amazon. At one point, I had 4 bestsellers on Amazon, so that was really awesome. Though my life wasn't always this way. As far back as I can remember, I've had an unquiet mind. In fact, I actually remember when I first started having thoughts. I was jumping on the bed with my sister, giggling and laughing, and all of a sudden, thoughts began occurring. I didn't know where the thoughts came from, why they were there, and wanted nothing more than for them to leave. Unfortunately, they didn't leave. It only got worse. As I was growing up, my thoughts raced rapidly and skipped uncontrollably. So before I could focus on one thought, my mind was onto another, and essentially all over the place. When people hear this, they immediately think ADHD, and I wish it were only that. That's because my emotions were also cycling intensely. One minute I'm feeling one way, and another minute completely different. Some days I was lethargic, barely able to get out of bed, and other days hyper and out of control. When people hear this, they immediately think bipolar, and I wish it were only that simple too. That's because I was changing states constantly. I often remember seeing the dazed look on people's eyes when one of these shifts would happen. They were so confused by how one minute I was acting one way and another completely different, as if I turned into another person. The best way to describe what was going on is I was feeling everything at once. So, majority of my life, I felt like I was going to spontaneously combust, but the tragedy of it was that I never did. Now, this is just a surface level description. The exercise we went through kind of gives you a tiny glimpse of what I was going through. And I didn't realize until much later, all of that was caused by my sensitivities to processed food. Processed food is, my body is very extremely sensitive to anything that's not whole or organic. So in many ways, processed food is like a hard drug to me. It makes my thoughts race, my emotions cycle, and floods me with intense amounts of energy and electricity. So imagine giving a child a hard drug 3 meals a day in and day out, week after week, for years and years. And so by the time I was an adult, I was practically insane. And to cope as an adult, I cycled through various medications, anti-anxiety, antidepressant, antipsychotic. Though the problem with most medication is very little of a pill or capsule has that active ingredient you're taking it for. Majority of it is fillers, stabilizers, colors, preservatives, flavors, and a lot more. So although the active ingredients may have been helping, the inactive ingredients were causing more problems than they were solving. And eventually I realized I was on a slippery slope, so I took myself off the ground. Though I didn't do it slow and gradually, but abruptly, yeah, bad move, because I lost, at that point, all control of my mind, complete control. You know those cracked out homeless on the streets talking to themselves, all erratic in their behavior? Well, I was almost there. I often joke, the crazy thing about crazy people is that they don't know they're crazy. And because I was aware, I could do something about it. And it took a while to gain that awareness, and I didn't realize at the time I was getting on a journey to figure this out and heal. And more or less, I had a mindset that I would try anything and everything. whatever tips, techniques, systems, processes, and supplements and medicines came my way, I would try it. And in my journey, I tried self-talk, visualization, meditation, hypnosis, breath work, acupuncture, biofeedback, Reiki, massage therapy, talk therapy, psychiatry, spirituality, prayer. I worked the 12 steps and worked with all sorts of healers, masters, gurus, and quacks. I more or less traveled to all corners of the globe, working with shamans in the jungles of Ecuador, spiritual or medicine men in the jungles of Colombia, spiritual healer in Brazil, guru from Korea, and even a witch doctor in Malawi. And in that journey, very little help because I wasn't addressing the underlying issue, which was food. Though they were all stepping stones, because one step helped me prepare to take the next, and the one after that helped me prepare to take the one after that. And bit by bit and brick by brick, I did start to piece myself together. Though there were three things that were instrumental in my journey. The first was self-talk, which was huge in helping me manage the inner mayhem. Because if I was feeling intense, I would repeat, I'm calm and relaxed. If I was feeling insecure, I repeat, I'm confident and secure. If my mind was going all over the place, I repeat, I'm focused and productive. And although self-talk didn't remove what was going on internally, it did help me respond to situations better. The second thing that helped was changing my diet. Though it was a long journey to understand the extent of my sensitivity. At first, I thought it was just McDonald's and Taco Bell. And then I realized it was also too fast casual, such as Panera and Sweetgreen, and expensive casual, such as McDonald's and Olive Garden. And then I realized it was actually all chain restaurants because the level of processing a food needs to taste and feel consistent through all the restaurants across the country is a lot. So I cut out all chain restaurants and kept cutting things out until I discovered farmers markets and really the farmers markets here in WNC, which really took me to the next level. Although self-talk helped with the mental level and the diet helped with the physical level, there was one level missing, and that was the emotional level. Self-talk and diet didn't repair the damage that was done. I needed to find a way to repair and release the inner mayhem that was going on. And the way I was able to do that is with the process I developed, which I call the Cam Knife method. And that is the process that I was able to, because of everywhere, all the things I've done and everything I learned, I had figured out a way to access, process, and release the emotions that were causing the inner insanity. And I used this process for years and years to get to this point where I can stand before you talking calmly and coherently. And in the interest of time, I won't just go into how the process works, but if we have time later, I will talk about it. And now, this is what I do. I help people quickly overcome trauma, PTSD, that breakup, codependency, and even loneliness. And I am not a therapist, but the way I describe it is like 2 years of healing in 2 hours. And the way that this method can create such a profound shift in such a short time is that it works on all of our, so these are the principles that I'm going to go through, but this method works on all of our core experiences. For starters, it works on our core emotions. To help you understand, you've all seen or heard about the Disney movie Inside Out. And this movie actually introduces the concept of the core emotions developed by Paul Ekman. In fact, Paul Ekman was brought on to the movie to consult on it. And although there are disagreements as to what the core emotions are, some models say it's fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. Other models say it's fear, hurt, anger, no sadness but joy. In this movie, it was fear, anger, sadness, joy, and disgust, no hurt. I'm not one to say which model is accurate. I just combined them all to say fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, and disgust. And with the Can-9 method, you can actually access these emotions to process and release. And when they're released, they stop creating challenges in our life. Though we can go even deeper and work on our core beliefs. As humans, we have all sorts of beliefs. And just like our emotions, they can be broken down into these core beliefs, such as I'm not enough, I'm too much, I'm alone and on my own, I don't matter, and I am broken. What's interesting about beliefs is that they're not statements in your head, but an emotional response, and all of our experiences filter through that emotional response. For example, if you wanted to go approach a potential client, that desire will filter through that belief to create that outcome. And with the Can-9 method, we can release the emotional charge around these beliefs to keep them from creating the blocks in our lives. Though we can go even deeper than that and work on our core needs. As humans, we have endless needs and desires. Our brain is creating endless wants day in and day out at a pace faster than anyone can achieve. Though all of our wants can be boiled down to a few core needs, such as the need for security, approval, and reproduction. And just like our emotions and beliefs, they have an emotional charge. And the stronger the charge, the harder it is to go after and achieve that need. But if we can, and so let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted something really bad, but things weren't moving for you, and as soon as you let it go, things started falling in place? Well, if we can reduce the charge around our needs and our wants, they actually become easier to do and achieve. What's more is that a lot of times we don't even have that need anymore. Have you ever gotten something that you really wanted, but it didn't change your life or your feelings like you thought it would? Well, sometimes it's easier to work on removing the need than to break our backs trying to achieve it. And with this method, we can do that, but we can go even deeper and work on our core dilemmas. The human brain is amazingly complex, and in its complexity, it creates all sorts of dilemmas. Well, there's one dilemma that overpowers all of them combined. Does anyone want to hear about it? That dilemma is at the root of all of our behaviors, it influences all of our decisions, and it's at the root of all of our emotional. In fact, when I tell people what I do, they often ask me about other modalities or other practices. And the first thing I do is look to see if those modalities and practices are aware of, addressed, or even are cognizant of this dilemma. And if they're not, I don't really waste my time because I know it's on the surface level and not hitting up on the core issues. So say yes if you want to hear about this dilemma. Yes. To understand the dilemma, I'm going to share two stories. One is at a certain point in my journey, I ended up in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. I had dinner with a few women I had met earlier that day, telling them about my journey. And one of the women asked me, Cam, don't you ever get lonely? And at that time, that question didn't really register because I didn't. In fact, I didn't even think about it. But after traveling enough on my journey of healing, loneliness did start to creep in. Though at the time, I also had a bit of ego and thought I could overcome it, and I even thought I could beat it. And I kept traveling, and I traveled far. I went to some of the furthest places in the world, to some of the most isolated places on the planet, to places that you can't even imagine exist. So here I am at hiking the tallest mountain range in Africa. This is the Sahara Desert. This is the ice sheets in Iceland. Oh, in Iceland. I actually slept here, and it seems like it's daytime. Right active Doom in the movie. If you guys have seen the movie Up, this is where the little boy and the man go to Venezuela. I actually climbed that thing. And like I said, I've been to places that you can't imagine exist. And as I was traveling, I tried every technique or things I knew to overcome an adventure. I broke in ways that I can't really describe, and it took a while to put myself back together. But these experiences allowed me to meet Lucy. Does anybody know who Lucy is? She is the oldest humanoid fossil found up until that point. In fact, interestingly enough, her name actually comes from the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And because of her historic nature, she traveled all around the world. And when I was in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, she happened to be at the Addis Ababa Museum, so I decided to pay a visit. And I'll be honest, it was pretty anticlimactic because it was just pieces of fossilized bone that didn't even look like bones, but just pieces of rock organized into a skeleton. Though what was fascinating is around Lucy was an exhibit that showed how we evolved from her to human. And what's amazing is that there was a point in human evolution where there were more than one intelligent species roaming the earth. There was a Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthal, and a couple of other species, including a hobbit-like one in Indonesia. Though we're the only ones survived. And there's many theories as to why that is, and one of them is that we caused their extinction. And that's because not only did we take over their land, but fossil records show that spear marks in them from the kind of spears we were using. So, and not only did we cause their extinction, but the largest extinction of large animals since the asteroid that killed the dinosaur happened with our arrival. Not only that, but in the nearly 4 billion years life has existed on this planet, there's only been 5 mass extinction events, and we're causing the 6th. The point that I'm trying to make is we humans are the most dangerous species to walk on the face of this planet. So, do you see the dilemma? On one hand, we humans at our very core need to be around others. But on the other hand, we humans at our very core are extremely dangerous. And our danger doesn't just come from wars, battles, and fighting, but even cellular things like being laughed at, being judged and rejected. In fact, we don't even have to be laughed at, rejected, or judged. If the mind perceives we are, it'll create immense pain. That's the level of danger we humans pose to ourselves. And our loneliness doesn't come from just being around others, but the need for attention, approval, affection, eye contact, physical contact, to be loved, to be known, matter, and so on. And not just one at a time, but all the time. And so this dilemma has put our brain in a very delicate predicament where it has to constantly teeter between fulfilling this drive in safe and healthy ways. And as a result, this dilemma creates all sorts of motivations and drives in us. So your desire to work out, look good, dress pretty, wear makeup, buy a big house, drive a nice car, make a lot of money, and work yourself to exhaustion is all driven by this dilemma. It's to make you attractive and valuable enough so people stay around and don't leave you. Though our loneliness runs deep, it causes us to control people in all sorts of weird and manipulative ways. Our desires to give and be generous is a way to control people in how they think and respond to us. The sob stories that we tell, it's about controlling people so they don't judge us and still accept us despite our flaws. In fact, our drive to be on stage, to become an authority, influencer, celebrity, politician, are all diabolical tricks our brain uses to gain the attention, affection, and approval of others in safe and controllable ways. And our loneliness, the more, the stronger our loneliness, the stronger our drive for attention, affection, and approval. And the more we become sensitive to the thoughts, judgments, and rejections of others, and so the more we control and manipulate people's behaviors. In fact, loneliness is more painful than physical abuse. If you've ever wondered why people stay in abusive relationships, it's because for the brain, abuse is less painful than loneliness. So regarding the turmoils, because all of our anxieties, stresses, nervousness, and overwhelm isn't about bad things happening, but how those bad things may affect our ability to continue getting attention, acceptance, and approval. And it's actually at the root of a lot of our addictive behaviors, because if growing up our brain sees people equals danger or that I'm not enough, our brain will prevent us from going after filling that need. And since the loneliness doesn't go away, our brain feels it has no choice but to numb us from the pain, and it does that with behaviors such as television, media, drugs, alcohol, and so much more. In fact, a lot of my travels wasn't me trying to get somewhere, it was my brain's trick to keep me from, it was my brain's trick of numbing me from my pain. Because I grew up with people equals danger, and as an adult, that I'm dangerous to people, my brain was trying desperately to keep me around from people. And although I stopped all sorts of other behaviors to manage my inner activity, it resorted to that. So the point I'm trying to make is that loneliness really drives a lot of our behaviors, and it's very difficult to access, which is why a lot of the models don't talk about it or are even aware of it. And even when you can access it, it's difficult to release the energy around it. But with the Kanpai method, I am gotten very good at helping people access it, even within the first session. And when we can reduce that emotional charge and intensity around it, it actually it reduces the charge and intensity around all the other levels, like our needs, the beliefs, and emotions, to create less challenges in our life. And that's more or less. Though with this method, we can go even deeper than that, and in the interest of time, I won't talk about it. But I will say, in terms of what I'm looking for, is if you know anyone who's looking to work through trauma, PTSD, codependency, bad breakups, or loneliness, the clients who really benefit from what I do are those who've tried everything and nothing has worked, and those who chase money and success thinking that will change their feelings, but they're still stuck. The other thing I'm looking for is to train people on this method. Though this training will not be like any other training, it's not going to be you sitting in front of a classroom or me teaching you and giving you advice. It'll be all done inside your unconscious mind. I will take you in your unconscious, show you how to access these emotions, needs as well for dilemmas, and in doing so, it's also going to create the healing. So it's both learning about the mind, in the mind, as well as healing through that journey. So I will say it is not for the faint of heart, because there's a reason why there's a big barrier between our conscious and unconscious mind, and it's because the unconscious is pretty cool and wild stuff. So I hope you guys found that enjoyable. I'll open it up to any questions. Actually, I do have two things that I want to say is, so in my journey, I said the two things outside of this that help for self-talk. So I've created a self-talk statement that took me nearly 15 years and traveling to nearly 100 countries to narrow down to, and it can really change your life if you repeat it on a regular basis. If you like that, say aye. Yes? Good. It is, I'm a do-it-now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish everything right away. And I deserve, have permission, and have habitual things. There's a lot of psychology behind why this works so well. And I can give you so many testimonials of people who have repeated that statement. And if you do it regularly, I promise you, it will make big shifts in your life. You guys all have that? The second gift I want to offer is that diet and food is really bad, especially in this country. And there's a lot of misinformation about it. In fact, most things labeled organic or healthy are far from it. And so in order to help kind of change the thinking of what we're putting in our body, I've also created a guide that helps you understand what you need to be looking for in terms of not just in your water and salt and produce and snacks and everything, but provides links to the best options, in my opinion. It's a work in progress guide. It's already 50 pages long, and I want to offer it to you guys for free. And you can do that if you text food to the number 26786. It's 50 pages right now, but I suspect it'll go up to 150. And once you text that, I will send it over to you, hopefully either today or tomorrow. And now I'll open up to questions.
Question.
Hello, Cam. My name is Peter. One theory about and I don't know if you've given them some thought as well, is that the visual cortex just needs to be working on something. It just wants to keep active, and that's what generates the images we see in our dreams. Do you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, so there's many reasons why we have dreams. One of them is that it's actually stimulating possible situations that we might experience in the real world. So that's why we experience nightmares, is because our brain is trying to think about, if I was in this situation, what would happen? If I was in that situation, how I would handle it. Another reason we have dreams is because our brain, while we're sleeping, is when it tries to take the different ideas and concepts that we're learning while we're awake into it, which is why our dreams can be so weird, because it's just connecting different ideas to see how they fit and things like that. And there's another big reason for dreams. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but yeah. So our mind is actually very active when we're sleeping, and though we need that sleep to create that activity, so we can integrate. So that's a third reason, is to integrate a lot of the stuff that we're learning, especially motor skills. So I know you and I do dance. So when we go out and learn new moves, it really helps to get a good 8 hours of sleep, so our brain can integrate that stuff into our body. Super.
And just one more thing on that is that I just learned recently that if you drink alcohol, that blocks that process of consolidation and integration as well. So just kind of going along with the diet thing. My question is for you to, if you would, flesh out the core dilemma. And what I want to say is, I noticed when you were talking about it, you're talking kind of in general and bringing a bunch of pieces together. I'm actually most curious about it. I sensed that it was kind of when people say it's in our DNA, like an intergenerational understanding, intergenerational belief that we humans are dangerous. So I, as a person, is that what you meant? That evolutionarily it came through us, that we've done all this damage, and I, as a person, know that, and so I take that on as an individual as well. Is that kind of what
I don't think I was saying it that way. It's just that we humans are dangerous, and when we look at not just our lives right now, but even history, we're so dangerous that it creates a challenge to be a human, because we need to be around ourselves, but at the same time, we're dangerous. And I'm not so much trying to kind of say that we know it inner knowingly, but I think as a life, we're always going to be sensitive to other lives to see if they're going to be a threat or not. And just from experience, from growing up, school, bullying, harassment, and all of that, we do start to form beliefs about what we can expect from other humans, whether they're going to be good or they're going to be dangerous. And as I had mentioned, with growing up, our brain makes the connection when people equals danger, it makes it much harder for us to fulfill that need for loneliness. And this is where a lot of our disruptive behavior starts coming from, is our brain attempting us to keep us away from people, but because we need to be around them so much, that pain doesn't go away, and so it feels it has no other choice but to numb us or distract us from the pain. And like I said, there's all sorts of disruptive behaviors, but even a lot of our sabotage comes from this. It's that if you're ever wondering why you're not getting to the next level, it could be because your brain is afraid that more success means being exposed to more people. And more people means more danger. So a lot of our self-sabotaging behavior is to not be exposed to people as much and stay more invisible.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And I hope that helps.
Come on, talk.
Hi, Ken.
Yeah.
My name is Paul. You talked a lot about a journey, you talked a lot about mindfulness, you talked a lot about the spirituality of things, and it sounds like an amazing, amazing journey, a very powerful journey. One of the things I was kind of curious about is that in all of your travels, and all of your studies, and all of the things that you have done to understand yourself and understand where things are going, and I don't mean to put a charge bit into this, but was any kind of religion something that you noticed was helping or had great insights into your journey? Not to turn this into a religious discussion, but for me, I've been looking into Buddhism, and there's a lot of things about mindfulness and about meditation and stuff like that. And so I find a lot of wisdom in it. And so I was wondering if you found any kind of wisdom in any of those different kind of religious types of beliefs.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So my journey was, a lot longer, and there's so many intricacies in it. And the challenges that I expressed, there was a lot more to it. And so one of the challenges was, I think I had a lot of religious trauma, because I come from a part of the world where there's only one religion. So when you grow up with that religion and everyone's following it, and everyone goes to the same events on the same days, you think that's all that exists. And that religion wasn't always nice, saying I'm going to burn hellfire, if I don't do all of these things the right way, God's going to punish me. And so I did have a lot of religious trauma that in the beginning I really rejected religion. But because I was traveling, it's a really big piece. So I've been inside so many temples and mosques and synagogues and churches to really grasp that. And I think spirituality is very core to us, just like loneliness is. And if you actually look at the studies, that spirituality is actually extremely important. The hope that it gives us us a lot of resilience and things like that. And almost all religions, cultures, and even indigenous tribes, because I got to experience a lot of them as well all over the world, have some sort of spirituality. So I'll almost say it's ingrained in our DNA to be spiritual, and if we're not, it is going to create disconnect in some of the challenges we're experiencing. I don't subscribe to one or another, what I do say is having one is really important. And so there are a lot of ideas that I did get from spirituality, also a lot of from philosophy, as well as psychology, to really understand the mind as well. Though the big thing was really just going inward and getting the insights from inside. Hope that answers it.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my name's Ray. Question, have you had an opportunity to work with people who feel they don't have any emotional deficits, like they feel balanced? If so, what were the results of the CAM-NIGHT method of those people who think there's nothing wrong with them?
Yeah. So I've had a few of those. I don't even know why they come to me, but I don't think I can get them. Is I've had a lot of people who didn't feel anything. They really numbed themselves. And after like 2 to 3 sessions, they were able to, release a lot of the blocks that were causing the numbness. And they've said things like, wow, like I'm actually feeling things. It actually feels good. The biggest challenge I do have is working with people where there's a lot of ego. A lot of people come to me who have said, I've tried everything and it doesn't work. And what I have realized is people who tried everything don't want to get over it. And that's the biggest breakthrough I have to do is like get over it. Could be from ego, it could be from other things. Sometimes I can't break through, other times people they just disappear because they'll do 1 or 2 sessions and think it doesn't work, and that's it. So I run the gamut, people who couldn't feel and people who really didn't truly unconsciously want to overcome the feeling.
Okay, one more question. Special issue.
I'm Bill McKinnon, one of the organizers here, and in your travels, particularly working with indigenous people, I wondered if you had experience in plant medicine.
Remember I had gave that list of all the things I've tried? Psychedelics was supposed to show up, and yeah, I did. I worked with shamans in the jungles of Colombia, and I was doing so much over there. I got to meet one really high level one, like the one who trains all the other shamans in Colombia. I was out when I was doing my ayahuasca. I had heard about iboga in Africa, so when I went to Africa, the first thing I did, I was looking for it, and I did. And all of those things were helpful, like I said, but because I wasn't addressing the underlying issue, I could clear all these emotions and all this intensity, but as soon as I would eat something that I shouldn't be, it kind of brought it back. And so those were also pivotal in my experience, though I think really our solutions are really much more basic than we think they are. It really comes down to the connections, the foods, not watching as much media that we are, and things like that. In fact, at this point, I don't even recommend it. Like if someone's working with me, I'll even say that now they don't need it anymore. Because psychedelics work very similar with the same principles as what I do. It cracks open the unconscious so we can access it. But the challenge with psychedelics is that everything comes up at the same time, and it's hard to really understand what's coming up. But what I do is very direct. You can focus on very specific things, specific people, specific situations, and address it without having to deal with everything else, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you so much. All right. That was so good. I could tell you guys were really into it. Our event sponsors, take a read over all of the people that support 1 Million Cups locally. Before I forget, I just want to announce that there's fresh coffee. We didn't have the full pot going, but we do now, so definitely grab some before you go. And we've got the name tags coming up. The first rollout of the actual name tag being worn will be in September. So if you would like one, they're going to be probably about this size, actually. Really pretty, 1 Million Cups logo on it, your name. It's a great opportunity to not use the ones out here and keep using a new name tag. Instead, we just have one. If you're interested, see any one of the organizers. And then we have our series of QR codes. If you're interested in the newsletter, we've been sending it out, but we've gone through a transition. So now we have a QR code and a new place that the newsletter is coming from. We're basically using this to let you know who's coming up next. So it's a great way, if you're curious, like, oh, who's presenting on Wednesday? This is one of the ways you can access that. The other way you can access that is on Instagram, which is, I'm blanking out, even though I'm the one currently posting it. Asheville 1 million cups, I'm pretty sure is just literally the simplest way to look it up on Instagram. Would love for you to be connected with us over there, and that's another way to be updated on who's presenting on Wednesday, is through Instagram. Okay, and we've got the QR code for sponsorship, if that's something that interests you, to be a 1 million cup sponsor. And we've got the QR code for presenting. And the other really easy way for presenting, if you're interested in presenting your business, is to go to the 1 Million Cups website, and right up at the top it says apply to present. So anytime you can do that. All right. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming. Glad you were here.